I transmigrated into the body that holds my heart, Part 5. My routine as Crazia had come naturally now. After a few months of living as her, it all began to feel natural, like answering to the name Crazia, when called, moving through the world as young and carefree as she was. Living as a college girl, majoring in fine arts, I'd slipped into the rhythm like it was always mine to begin with. Truth is, it kind of was. I was a fine arts student in my past life too. Compared to everything else, this was nothing. And thanks to the publicized news of my amnesia, everyone around me had become politely cautious. I didn't pay much attention to it. I acknowledged those who spoke to me, ignored those who didn't. Simple, efficient, and unapologetic. After classes, Mom would pick me up in her black sedan, always wearing sunglasses and holding her phone like a CEO about to end a merger. I've once told her that personally picking me up is too much, but she insisted. Sometimes we shopped. Most of the time, we went straight to the hotel. Our hotel, the Zane Legacy. As we walked in, I'd flare my hair out of habit, more like reflex. Really? Employees bowed as we passed by, murmuring greetings like a practiced chorus. I was simply enjoying being me. Or rather, being Crazia. It was a different kind of freedom, one born out of power and presence. Now, here I was in my brother's office, the vice chairman's office. Hansel had stepped out for a meeting, so I made myself comfortable on his designer sofa, legs tucked beneath me, book in hand. The sun was dipping low outside the window, golden light spilling into the room like liquid honey. My book, an old, well-loved favorite, rested in my lap as I turned a page. This was peace. No drama, no flashbacks, no Evans. Just the quiet luxury of a girl who had it all. Funny how my life twisted so dramatically. One moment I'm Martha Evans. The next thing I know, I became Crazia Mazane. And yet I felt a sense of belonging. At the Zane's residence later that night, if gazes could kill, then I'd be dead for the second time around. Dinner was a lavish affair as, always in the Zane household. The dining hall could rival any royal banquet, its ceilings adorned with hand-painted frescoes, and a chandelier that looked like it belonged in Versailles. The table, long enough to seat 20, gleamed under the warm lights. Old trimmed china plates held courses that could make a Michelin star chef cry. Seared wagyu with black truffle glaze, butter-poached lobster tail over saffron risotto, and garden-fresh vegetables, plated like abstract art. Wine poured like it came from a sacred vineyard. Everything smelled expensive, tasted even more so. And yet, I barely noticed any of it. Because something hung in the air, heavy, electric. After the final course was cleared and the staff retreated with quiet bows, Dad, still in his three-piece charcoal suit, cleared his throat. Crazia Hanselme. To my study now, he said. His voice alone made the room still. We followed him in silence, weaving through hallways lined with paintings and ancestral portraits, until we reached his study. Now that room was something else. I was amazed as I walked in. Dark wood panels, floor-to-ceiling shelves, lined with leather-bound books, a fireplace that probably never ran out of perfectly cut wood. And there he was, my father, seated behind his massive mahogany desk, like a king on a throne. He didn't look at Hansel. He didn't glance at Mom. His eyes locked on me, hard, cold, sharp as a blade that had just been unsheathed. I sat on the plush sofa, carefully smoothing down my dress, pretending not to notice the fury etched into every line of his face. His stare was a storm waiting to strike. I didn't dare meet it. I just fixed my gaze on the carpet, heart pounding in my ears. Then came the sigh, deep and measured, like a man who had fought a war and barely won. Tristan said yes. The words came like thunder. My head snapped up. Really? Dad? He did. I bolted from my seat, the scream already escaping before I could control it. Joy, raw and reckless, burst from me like champagne. I rushed toward the man who held my future in his hands, arms open, ready to throw myself into a hug. But his voice stopped me cold. Wait there, young lady. The sharpness in his tone cut through my excitement like a knife through silk. He still hadn't smiled. His expression was unreadable. Stone. Whatever this was, it wasn't a fairy tale ending just yet. I pressed my lips and looked at my dad. He specifically said only for business. Dad's voice was grave, final. Each word a nail hammered into my fantasy. He didn't look away when he said it. His gaze bore into me, steady and unflinching. This marriage is a business deal. Nothing more, nothing less. I pouted. Of course. Of course that would be the case. I mean, what did I expect? That fate would hand me a second life and a love story with Tristan Xavier on a silver platter. Come on, Crecia. Or should I say, Martha, in being too delusional. It's not like we knew each other. Not me. Not her. Crecia and Tristan were strangers. He hadn't even looked at me before that hospital day. Before the accident. Before the miracle that put his name in my heart. A marriage of convenience, my father added, almost like a whisper. The words hung in the space between us, like smoke from a dying flame. Then, something in his expression shifted. That killing gaze softened. I felt like the iron had melted. He leaned forward, and suddenly he was no longer the billionaire tycoon who ruled boardrooms with silence. He was just my father. Is that the kind of life you want, dear? His voice cracked at the edges, pleading and vulnerable. Behind him, Mom exhaled deeply, but didn't speak. Still, I could feel her thoughts screaming, loud and clear. Don't rush. Don't trap yourself. You deserve more than this. And maybe they were right. But what they didn't understand, what no one could understand, is that I wasn't just some naive girl chasing a rich man's shadow. This wasn't a crush. It wasn't fantasy. It was something deeper. Something born in the quiet ache of dying alone. And waking up as someone new, someone loved, someone whole. Yes, this marriage might be nothing but strategy to him. But for me, it was the only thread that tied me to a man I couldn't stop thinking about. A man whose pain mirrored mine. A man I might be dangerously greedy enough to want. Even without love, I reached out and held my dad's hand. It was curled into a tight fist on top of the table, his knuckles pale from the pressure. A sign of all the tension he was keeping, buried behind his carefully composed expression. Slowly, I wrapped my fingers around his. Dad, I said softly, I know how hard this was for you. He didn't meet my eyes, but I felt the way his hand tensed under mine, the weight of his pride, the gravity of what it meant for him to approach Tristan, not just to speak, but to offer something as deeply personal and vulnerable as a marriage proposal. To go to your business rival, your nemesis even, and propose marriage, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That's not something you'd ever do lightly. I know that. His jaw tightened, but I didn't stop. I just want you to know. I appreciate it, more than you probably realize. I gave his hand a light squeeze, grounding both of us. I really like Tristan, I confessed, the words falling out like a quiet truth I had been holding too close to my chest. I'm not asking for anything in return. Not love, not attention. I just want the chance to be near him. As I looked at his eyes, I saw the shift. Not understanding, not quite acceptance, but something between worry and surrender. I smiled faintly and pulled my hand back, folding it gently on my lap. I'm not that same girl anymore, I added quietly. This second life, it made me see what really matters. And right now, what matters to me is him. Even if I'm the only one who feels that way. The room fell silent, heavy but warm. Mom's hand found my shoulder. She didn't speak. She just looked at me with concern. Her sigh is a sign of how heavy this engagement really is. After all, Crecia is only 19 years old. She's still a baby in her eyes. Still innocent and novice in this game called life and the risk called love. Don't come crying to us if he breaks your heart. Hansel's voice cut through the thick silence like a blade. I turned my head just in time to see him standing up from the sofa, his expression tight, jaw clenched. Then, without waiting for a single word more, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo of it lingered in the room like thunder. I flinched a little, but I didn't say anything. I just stared at the closed door and let the silence settle in again. Mom looked like she wanted to go after him, but she didn't move. Dad stayed rooted in place, his hand now resting open on the table, calmer than before, but no less conflicted. I took a deep breath. I must be really crazy. Crazy for choosing this path. Crazy for wanting someone I barely knew. crazy for thinking I could rewrite my story with someone who hadn't even asked for a single word of it. But maybe that's what second lives are for. Doing the crazy things the first version of you was too scared to even dream of. And if it ends with a broken heart, then so be it. At least this time, it would be my choice.